You understand this map? The map that moves from the Eastern European parts to the Central Asian parts. I'm just zooming on the map slightly. Okay, so I'm taking and zooming on the Scandinavian nations, then the Baltic Sea and the littoral of the Baltic Sea. Then I take a zoom in on the Baltic nations, then Belarus, then Ukraine, then Black Sea, and then I zoom in the what you can call littoral of the Black Sea. Okay, and then I turn from Black Sea. Georgia is the last country to be found at the littoral of Black Sea. It moves into the Caucasus countries. From Georgia, we get to Armenia, and then we go to Azerbaijan. And in Azerbaijan, we move from Azerbaijan into the littoral of the Caspian Sea, right? And we see the littoral of the Caspian Sea, Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, Turkmenistan, and Kazakhstan. And from Caspian Sea, we move towards Central Asia. And from Central Asia, you move towards Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, you move towards Pakistan. And from Pakistan, you move towards Jammu and Kashmir. And I hope that this entire region, in terms of a geography, is supposed to be clear to you. Now, I feel that currently this is the most geopolitically sensitive hotspot region in the world because of what is happening in Azerbaijan and Armenia, what is happening in Russia and Ukraine, what is happening with regard to the Baltic Sea, the Nord Stream pipeline, what is happening in terms of Iran's influence of West Asian region and the Russian influence of the Central Asian region, and what is happening in Pakistan and Afghanistan with the Taliban sitting at Afghanistan. So you can consider this to be an entire zone moving from Scandinavia to this particular region with regard to Pakistan Afghanistan region. This can be considered an entire zone, and how this zone brings together countries like Russia, Iran, and India together in terms of their strategic interests. Also, by the way, one of the most prominent multilateral organizations in the world, SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is also most active on these areas itself. It has all the Central Asian countries except one, Turkmenistan, as a member, and it also has Iran as a member. It also has Russia as a member, and there are few countries like Belarus, etc., who are observer members with the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So I hope that this part becomes somewhat clear to you. Central Asia and Eastern Europe, this entire stretch, we are able to understand slightly better. Clear? Now, just to get a sense of this, finally, let's take a look at the map of Central Asia. If you see the map of Central Asia over here, you have, let's start with Azerbaijan. You have Caspian Sea, right? You have Iran, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, right? Now you get a sense of how this is working. Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan are one above the other. Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan are one above the other, and you have Kazakhstan. So now a question that we can ask is, which of the Central Asian countries, now see, I'm asking all of these questions in a prelims format, right? Which of these Central Asian countries have a direct border with each other? Let's say if I ask this question, we already know the Central Asian countries which have access to the Caspian Sea are Turkmenistan and Kazakhstan. The question is, which of the following countries have a Central Asian countries have a direct border with each other? Let's say, for example, if I give the first grouping as this, Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, it is correct. Okay, if I say Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, it is also correct. You can see Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan have a direct border. Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan also have a direct border, right? Now let's say, for example, I ask Kazakhstan with Kyrgyzstan. It is correct answer, right? Kazakhstan has a direct border with Central Asian country named as Kyrgyzstan. So Kazakhstan has a direct border with three Central Asian countries: Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Kyrgyzstan. The only country that Kazakhstan does not have a direct land border is Tajikistan, right? So this is a kind of a question that you will have to take a look at. Again, please see which of the following Central Asian countries has a direct border with each other. So Kazakhstan has a direct border with Uzbekistan. Kazakhstan has a direct border with Turkmenistan. It has a direct border also with Kyrgyzstan, but it does not have a direct border with Tajikistan. So Tajikistan is a country which does not have a direct border with Kazakhstan. Clear? Now, if you take a look at this very simply, so Kazakhstan is done. Now, if you take a look at Turkmenistan, Turkmenistan naturally has a direct border with Kazakhstan, as we have discussed. Turkmenistan also has a direct border with Uzbekistan. These are the two countries that Turkmenistan has a direct border with. Turkmenistan has a direct border with Kazakhstan, and it has a direct border with Uzbekistan. As we have seen otherwise, that Turkmenistan also has a direct border with Iran and Afghanistan, right? So with Afghanistan, we have seen this clearly, right? So I hope you're taking a note of this. Kazakhstan has a direct border with 3 Central Asian countries, right? Turkmenistan has a direct border with 2 Central Asian countries, which is Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan. Just keep a memory of this map in your mind. You'll understand it better, right? You have Turkmenistan and you have Uzbekistan, right? Now these are the two countries with which Turkmenistan has direct borders, Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. Clear? Now if you take a look at the next country, Tajikistan. Tajikistan has a direct border with Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. So you have, for example, Tajikistan has a direct border with Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan has a direct border with Kyrgyzstan. So Tajikistan has direct borders with 2 Central Asian countries. Clear? Right, and you take a look at Kyrgyzstan now. Kyrgyzstan has a direct border with Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan has a direct border with Kazakhstan. Kyrgyzstan also has a direct border with Uzbekistan. Kyrgyzstan has a direct border with Tajikistan. Right? You see the point over here? So just take a look at this. Kyrgyzstan has a direct border with 3 Central Asian countries, which are Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. Just try to absorb this map quietly for yourself. Again, I'm focusing this rather prominently so you get a sense of how this has to be divided clearly in your mind. Okay. Now we take a look at the peculiar case of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is one Central Asian country which has geographical fascination towards itself. It has all the 5 Central Asian republics as borders, right? So it is a landlocked country within a landlocked region. Okay, so Central Asia itself is a landlocked region, and within the landlocked region, one country which is at the core of the core is the country of Uzbekistan. As you can see, Uzbekistan is one country which has borders with all the Central Asian countries, right? So you have Uzbekistan surrounded by Kazakhstan in the north, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan in the east, and Turkmenistan in the southwest. These are the countries which are surrounding Uzbekistan entirely, right? Also, Uzbekistan happens to be the only Central Asian country which does not have any other neighbors except for Central Asia. Turkmenistan has Iran and Afghanistan, Tajikistan has China, Kyrgyzstan has China, Kazakhstan has Russia, but Uzbekistan is the only country which does not have any other neighbors in this region except for what you call the Central Asian republics, right? So that's basically another kind of a possible prelims question, that within a region which is entirely landlocked, apart from a few entries in the Caspian Sea, you hardly have any activity in the Central Asian region which leads it to the global waters. You can't go to the global waters, so it is more or less a landlocked area, right? Within a landlocked area, you have still a further properly landlocked country within Central Asia, which is the center of Central Asia as it is sometimes called, is Uzbekistan, because Uzbekistan has a border with all the remaining four Central Asian countries. Okay, so you get a sense of this. Now, if a question comes, which of the following countries in Central Asia has a border with Russia? The answer is Kazakhstan. Which of the following Central Asian countries has a border with Iran? The answer is Turkmenistan. Which of the following Central Asian countries have a border with Afghanistan? We have already discussed. That is Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan. Which of the following Central Asian countries have a border with China? And that is Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan. Right. So this is a kind of a structure that you'll have to remember slightly to be able to complete this entire structure of map work. Right. Do we understand this, class? And then, of course, once you have been able to complete this entire part of Central Asia, you can come to Afghanistan, and then you can come to Pakistan, and you know the countries which are you are taking a look at a country which is basically moving into this particular region which has a bit of a movement downstairs, right? So you have more region. Yes, I understand the fact that Uzbekistan's borders are touching with Afghanistan, but generally speaking, if you take a look at this, this is a complete area dominated by Central Asia, right? So it is correct to say, and by the way, just to be sure about this part, Afghanistan and Uzbekistan experience a bit of a border dispute in this region, right? So this is already a disputed border with regard to the Tajik claims on these regions. The Tajiks and the Uzbeks in Afghanistan have claimed certain areas over here, right? So I'm not saying that Uzbekistan doesn't have borders with countries outside Central Asia. It's just an expression that is generally used to term Uzbekistan as the core of the core Central Asian countries in terms of it being completely landlocked entirely, right? And there are certain border disputes also with regard to this. So yes, necessarily with the map you can be very sure that Uzbekistan is touching borders with Afghanistan, but because of the border disputes that have been raised by the Tajiks and the Uzbeks in this region, these areas are slightly controversial with regard to these activities. But take it, nonetheless, you're right to point out Uzbekistan must be understood as a country which is having border with Afghanistan also.